The world of geopolitics has just witnessed a move that is shaking the very foundations of power. A single handshake, yes, a handshake between India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Ibrahim Traoré has sent ripples across Washington, Paris, and London. Because this was not just about a gesture of friendship, it was a message to the West that the global South is rising, and it will not be stopped. For decades, Western powers have controlled the narrative, whether it was through military, alliances like NATO, financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, or trade agreements that kept nations in Africa and Asia dependent. But today, things are changing, and this handshake is more than symbolic. It represents a growing unity between Africa and Asia that threatens to end centuries of Western dominance. According to a 2023 report by The Diplomat, India has been rapidly strengthening its ties with African nations, investing in trade, technology, and infrastructure projects across the continent. The Modi government views Africa not as a region to exploit, but as a partner in development. And at the same time, leaders like Ibrahim Traoré, the youngest head of state in the world, are pushing back against Western neocolonial control. Traoré has already made headlines by expelling French troops, cutting ties with Western aid dependency, and calling for Africa's complete independence. So when Modi extended his hand to Traoré, and Traoré accepted, the world was watching. And let's be clear, this was not just two men greeting each other. It was India aligning with Africa in a way that directly challenges the Western status quo. Western media immediately took note. According to Foreign Policy, the U.S. has been increasingly worried about India's drift toward non-Western alliances, especially as it deepens its role in BRICS alongside China, Russia, Brazil, and South Africa. Now with Traoré and other Sahel leaders leaning toward India as a strategic partner, Washington's influence is under serious threat. Think about it. Just a few years ago, Africa was seen as the backyard of France, Britain, and the United States. Today, it's becoming the front line of a new multipolar order where Africa doesn't bow to the West but chooses its own destiny. And Trump? You can imagine his reaction. Trump has always claimed that he alone could fix America's global image. But this handshake shows something else entirely. The world is moving on without America. The rise of Traoré symbolizes Africa's rejection of Western tutelage. The presence of Modi symbolizes Asia's independence and growing power. Together, they represent billions of people across the global South who are saying, enough is enough. According to a BBC analysis earlier this year, Africa-India trade has already crossed $100 billion, and both sides are pushing for an increase to $150 billion in the coming years. Compare that with declining Western investments in Africa, which often come with harsh conditions or exploitative deals. This economic shift alone is a warning sign for Washington. But there's more. Traoré's government has been vocal about creating alliances that bypass Western banking systems. His push for African nations to unite under a common financial and security framework has already gained traction within the Sahel Alliance. Now, with India showing support, the IMF and World Bank's monopoly could face serious cracks. A 2024 analysis by The Guardian revealed how African leaders are increasingly criticizing IMF debt programs, calling them chains disguised as aid. Traoré echoed this sentiment in multiple speeches, declaring that Africa must never again trade its dignity for dollars. With Modi standing beside him, that message grows louder and much harder for the West to ignore. This brings us to the question, why is this such a nightmare for Trump and Western leaders? The answer lies in symbolism. Western powers are terrified of a world where Africa and Asia rise together, because if India, Africa, and other BRICS-aligned nations build a strong economic and political bloc, it means the U.S. can no longer dictate terms on trade, energy, or even military alliances. Imagine the optics. Donald Trump on one side, struggling to maintain U.S. dominance, while Modi and Traoré stand united, representing billions of people, demanding equality on the world stage. This is the kind of image that reshapes history. But let's go deeper. What does this handshake actually mean for ordinary people in Africa and India? It means possibilities, new trade routes, better technology transfers, stronger defense cooperation, and a shared fight against poverty and underdevelopment. It means that instead of depending on the West, Africa can now partner with India to build its own future, and the West knows it. A leaked analysis from the European Council on Foreign Relations warned that Western powers are losing ground in Africa due to new assertive leadership and alternative partnerships. While the report didn't mention Traoré by name, the subtext was clear. Leaders like him are exactly the kind who can inspire an entire continent to resist. Meanwhile, Modi has been very careful in balancing India's foreign policy. On one hand, India engages with the West, even participating in forums like the Quad with the US and Japan. But on the other hand, Modi is also positioning India as a leader of the global South, a role the West cannot control. And that's why his handshake with Traoré matters so much. It shows that India is not afraid to align with revolutionary African leaders, even when it goes against Washington's interests. So the next time you see an image of Modi shaking Traoré's hand, remember, this is not just about India and Burkina Faso. This is about billions of voices rising together against centuries of domination. It's about telling the West, your time is over. The future belongs to us. And as history shows, sometimes revolutions don't start with wars or speeches. Sometimes they begin with something as simple as a handshake. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.